As a Brit, I honestly fantasize about a Russian invasion of NATO Europe, and after a few confused, chaotic months, a united European army counterattacking and marching into Moscow. If only it could be assured that no nukes would be involved. Russia is genuinely such a third world backwater with such a pathetic military history, it is disastrous that they have such a stockpile of nuclear weapons. It would be really satisfying to finally knock them out after over a century of them fucking over the West. Nobody really sees it, but they are entirely at fault for the First World War, which they quit midway through and turned communist. Then rely on the West to save them from getting exterminated by Nazis, and then swallow half of Europe and usher in a Cold War. To rid Russia would be to finally end all threat to Europe. Not a war, but I'm desperately waiting for the Three Gorges Dam to collapse. Not because of bombing or sabotage, but because it was made by the Chinese. Corruption/costs, cutting/sketchy building practices, leading to the greatest human disaster in history is a completely plausible scenario to me, given what we know about the reliability of Chinese engineering. Probably leads to another warring states period as different wannabe warlords claim their own territories as they break away from Beijing, followed by maybe a UN peacekeeping expedition as they try to make sure nukes don't fall into terrorist hands. Can you imagine the Japs and Koreans returning to Manchuria on a goodwill mission? Because I sure can, and it's fucking hilarious. India versus China. India gets Pyrrhic victory, then gets stomped by Pakistanis. Pakistanis are getting eradicated by Taliban. Then Afghanistan is glassed with nukes. There should have been Iran somewhere in between, but it's not on the menu anymore. An excessively tan gentleman in a baseball cap has ordered every bit. The one you hope kicks off because it would be interesting to watch. Oh, I got a couple. China versus India and Pakistan versus India have already been mentioned multiple times, so here's a couple. Indonesia versus Australia/Papua New Guinea. Algeria versus Morocco. Brazil versus Venezuela. South Africa versus Angola. ECOWAS versus Junta Triad of Retards. Egypt versus Ethiopia. Thailand versus Myanmar. Turkmenistan versus Uzbekistan. Wars between nations with modern armies. Planes, tanks, long-range missiles, etc. aren't interesting. I've always wanted to witness pre-World War I type warfare in the modern age. Maybe somewhere in Africa. Imagine line warfare with rusty AKs and dirt bike cavalry. Africa has some fucking insane warfare in the modern day, to be fair. Specifically the whole cult of the paratrooper, where by virtue of being such shitholes with little to no meaningful air defense, African countries can actually make great use of paratroopers in present-day warfare. There will be no full-fledged direct wars between India and China, but there will be wars between India's other neighbors, especially Pakistan and Bangladesh. From what I remember, there's even a book by ex-CIA about the water wars between Bangladesh and India, mentioning in the distant future, Bangladesh will attack multiple Indian dams. Bro, this map is retarded. Germany being yellow? Have you ever fucking been there? It rains all the time. We have springs of water in the mountains pouring out 24/7. In most places, we have flooding problems every summer. There's a water obstacle every 7 kilometers statistically. The military here gave no soldier ever more than one canteen and a pack of water purification pills because water is abundant as fuck. It's not possible to use excessive water here. It literally falls from the sky and flows from the mountain if you use it or not. Desert have fresh water shortages? Also, China is marked blue, while in reality 90% of their groundwater is polluted beyond even being usable for plants. Aside from that, if things get really dicey, you can distill fresh water from seawater with electrolysis. You just need lots of power for it, something a nuclear reactor can give. What anybody who has not been hijacked by the green grift like turdies can do. USA vs China, of course. I want to see hypersonic crashing into carriers. I want to see ballistic missiles rain down on Guam. I want to see frightened mutts and the end of the US hegemony. United States versus the world. Would be fun. Somalia would have trashed North Korea if the USA hadn't stepped in. Chinese intervention in Myanmar. Let's see how well they do in their own Afghanistan. China is piss and India is shit. Them fighting would be the world's biggest toilet flushing. I want 2 women to fight over me and a third to come and claim me while they fight, and when they realize what's happened, they bury the hatchet, and once they get me back, they take turns burying my dick inside their vaginas. And then the third woman catches up to us and tries to win me. I love women so much it's unreal. Mine is the same as yours, especially if it degenerates into World War I tactics. I can only dream. Massed infantry rushes of fixed positions into the teeth of machine gun fire. Artillery barrages sweeping hordes of troops. Poison gas. Trench warfare with infiltrations and hand-to-hand fighting with melee weapons on an enormous scale. A Twilight 2000-esque scenario where 2 major powers nuke each other to high hell after brief conventional warfare and then resume said conventional warfare with whatever is left until both sides run each other into the ground.
When we're out together, dancing cheek to cheek.